My phone rang, and in that moment, my entire life split in two. One version of me was standing in the garden, and the other was about to find her pregnant daughter, broken, in a ditch. Story, Part 1. I was in my backyard, pulling the last of my tomatoes. The sun was warm. Everything felt normal, peaceful. And then, my phone rang. It was Dorothy, my neighbor. But something in her voice wasn't right. It was flat, careful, like she was choosing every word so she wouldn't say too much too fast. "Eleanor," she said slowly. "Your daughter's car is in a ditch on Miller Road." My heart stopped. She's hurt. You need to come. Now. I didn't think. I didn't take off my gloves. Didn't lock the door. I just drove. I don't even remember the road. Just flashes, trees, turns, my hands gripping the wheel so tight they hurt. And then I saw it. Her car. Half off the road, tilted into the ditch. The passenger door was open, like someone had pulled her out, and then changed their mind. "Simone," I screamed. I ran, and there she was. My daughter, slumped against the passenger window, barely conscious. Her face. One side was swollen so badly. I almost didn't recognize her. Her blouse was torn at the shoulder, and she was 7 months pregnant. 7 months. I touched her cheek. She flinched. Not from pain, from fear, like she thought I was going to hurt her. That broke something inside me. "Baby, it's me," I whispered. "It's Mom." She forced one eye open, the other completely shut. Her lips trembled. They said she struggled to speak. My sister-in-law said I deserved it. She stopped to breathe. That I was never good enough for this family. I didn't cry. Not then. I held her hand the entire way to the hospital. And I made myself a promise. I would not fall apart. Not yet. My name is Eleanor Graves. I'm 63 years old. I spent 31 years teaching high school English. And I raised my daughter alone after her father walked out when she was just 4. So trust me when I say this. I know what it means to protect something with everything you have. And Simone? She is the best thing I've ever done. Warm, stubborn, quietly funny in a way that catches you off guard. 2 years ago, she married into the Caldwell family. And I tried, God knows I tried, to be happy about it. Her husband, Marcus? He's decent. Truly. Works in logistics. Keeps things in order. Even remembered my birthday last year without being told. I've never had a problem with him. But his sister, Renata Caldwell, that's where everything changes. From the very first dinner, I felt it. The way she looked at Simone. Not hatred. Not even dislike. It was something colder. Like she was measuring her. Calculating something. Renata is 41. Unmarried. And she's spent her entire life orbiting around one thing. The Caldwell family money. Their father, Gerald Caldwell Sr., built a construction empire from nothing. 50 years of work. And when he passed, 18 months ago, he left behind a will. A will that changed everything. But here's the thing. That morning, when Dorothy called me, I didn't know any of that. I didn't know about the money, the land, the tension. All I knew was, my daughter was lying in a ditch, beaten, broken, and carrying a child who hadn't even had the chance to take her first breath. At the hospital, the doctor, a young woman with tired eyes, pulled me aside. "She has 2 cracked ribs," she said quietly. "A fractured cheekbone and bruising consistent with being struck and thrown." Thrown. That word echoed in my head. Thrown. "The baby?" I asked. She gave a small nod. "Heartbeat is strong." That was the first time I exhaled. "She'll need surgery," the doctor continued. "Not tonight, but soon." I nodded. "Can she talk?" "A little." "She asked for you." I walked into her room slowly. Machines beeping. That sterile hospital smell. And my daughter, lying there, fragile, but still fighting. I sat beside her, took her hand, and waited for the noise in my head to quiet down. "Tell me," I said softly. She stared at the ceiling, took a deep breath, just like I taught her. And then she said something. That changed everything. She called me yesterday morning, Simone said slowly. Her voice was weak, but steady. Renata. The name alone made my chest tighten. She told me Marcus wanted to meet for lunch at the old Caldwell property. Route 9. I frowned. Why there? She said it was about paperwork, something about the land survey, that he needed my signature. Simone swallowed hard. But I felt it, Mom. That pause. That instinct. I knew exactly what she meant. That quiet, cold feeling when something is wrong, even before you know what it is. Marcus wasn't there, she continued. My stomach dropped. It was just Renata and two men I'd never seen before. I didn't interrupt. I didn't move. Renata told me I didn't belong in this family. Her voice cracked slightly. That the land should stay in Caldwell blood. I felt my jaw tighten. And then she said, Simone hesitated. Like the words themselves tasted bitter. She said my kind always marries for money. My kind. I kept my face still. But inside, something was boiling. And then, I asked quietly. One of the men grabbed my arm. Her breathing got heavier. I fought back. I tried to pull away. Her hand moved slightly toward her face. I fell against the fence post, the metal corner. I closed my eyes for a second. Just 1 second. I think I blacked out, she whispered. When I woke up, I was alone. Alone. No phone, no help, nothing. Her voice dropped even lower. I had to walk to the road. And suddenly, everything made sense. Dorothy. The ditch. The open door. She left you there? I asked. My voice, colder than I expected. 7 months pregnant, and she left you there? Simone closed her eyes. A single tear slipped out. Yes, ma'am. She did. I sat there until she fell asleep, just holding her hand, watching the machines, listening to every breath, like it mattered more than anything in the world. Because it did. And when I knew she was stable, I stood up, walked out of that hospital room, through the hallway, out into the parking lot. It was quiet. Too quiet. I stood between two pickup trucks, and I made a call to the one person I trusted when things needed to be handled. My brother, Calvin. Calvin is 58, retired after 22 years in the sheriff's department. He's not loud, not emotional, but he's the kind of man who gets things done. When our mother was dying, and I was falling apart at the kitchen table, he looked at me and said, Eleanor, falling apart is for later. Right now, we have things to do. I've never forgotten that. He picked up on the second ring. Cal, I said. And that's all it took. I need you. He drove 4 hours that same night. Arrived at 2 a.m. with a thermos of coffee and a yellow legal pad. That's Calvin. Always prepared. Always focused. We sat across from each other in the waiting room. And I told him everything. Every detail. Every word Simone said. Every feeling I had buried. And he didn't interrupt. Didn't react. Just wrote. Line by line. Until I was done. And then, he looked up. And said 5 words that changed everything. Okay, here's what we do. Step 1. The police report. Simple, right? No. Not even close. The deputy who showed up. Young. Nervous. And you could tell. He knew exactly who Renata Caldwell was. Her family name carried weight in that county. Money. Connections. Influence. But Calvin? He sat in the corner of that hospital room. Silent. Still. Watching. And that alone was enough. The deputy's pen moved faster. His eyes stayed down. He didn't dare slack off. Statement taken. Case number assigned. Documented. That was step 1. Step 2? The land. Because something didn't add up. Not yet. Not fully. Calvin made a call. To an old contact. A woman named Patricia. Now a property attorney in Atlanta. Sharp. Experienced. No nonsense. He called her at 7 a.m. By 9, she had everything. The will. The documents. The truth. And the truth was this. Gerald Caldwell Sr. had been very clear. The Route 9 property. All 200 acres of it. Worth over $2 million. was not left to Marcus alone. It was left to Marcus and his legal spouse. Joint ownership, which meant Simone owned it too. Legally. Fully. No loopholes. No tricks. And Renata? She had no claim. None. Not then. Not ever. I looked at Calvin. She knew that, didn't she? He didn't hesitate. She's known it since the will was read. A heavy silence filled the room. The question is, he continued, did she think she could scare Simone into signing it away? Or, he paused. His eyes darkened slightly. Did she just want her out of the way, completely? I felt something cold run through me. You think, I said slowly. You think she wanted Simone to lose the baby? Calvin didn't answer immediately. He stared at his coffee, thinking, measuring, then finally said, I don't think Renata cared, either way. And that was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was war. Marcus came to the hospital that same afternoon. And I'll give him this. The moment he saw Simone, something inside him broke. He froze in the doorway. Couldn't speak. Couldn't move. For a full minute, he just stood there, staring at her face, at the bruises, at what his own family had done. Then slowly, he walked over, took her hand, pressed his forehead against hers, like he was trying to hold her together. Or maybe, hold himself together. I stepped out. Some moments don't belong to you. Calvin joined me in the hallway. He knew. I asked. Calvin shook his head. I don't think so. He leaned against the wall. That lunch meeting? Fake. I frowned. Renata told him Simone had a prenatal appointment, he continued, and asked him to handle a work call in Atlanta. I blinked. So he was out of town. All day. I exhaled slowly. She used him. Calvin nodded. She used everyone. Then he said something I'll never forget. People like Renata don't fight fair. They set the board, move the pieces, and walk away before everything collapses. But this time, she wasn't walking away. Not from this. Not from us. Within a week, everything started moving. Fast. Precise. Like clockwork. Patricia filed the lawsuit. Assault. Battery. Intentional emotional harm. And attempted coercion over the property. Every charge. Carefully placed. Every word. Strategic. Then came the men. The two men Renata thought would stay silent. They didn't. Because one mistake is all it takes. One of them had a phone. And that phone pinged a tower near Route 9 that same afternoon. And Calvin? He still had connections. People who knew how to ask questions. The right way. Through the right channels. They found them faster than Renata expected. And when they did, one of them cracked. Quickly. He already had a record. Didn't want another. So he talked. And what he said was enough to change everything. Renata paid us, he admitted. $500 each. My hands curled into fists when I heard that. $500. That's what my daughter's life was worth to her. She just wanted us to scare her, make her sign the papers. He hesitated. It went further than intended. Further than intended. That phrase. It stuck with me. Still does. Because what does that even mean? How far is too far when someone ends up in a ditch, pregnant and bleeding? The district attorney's office was slow. Too slow. Dragging their feet. And Patricia noticed. Immediately. So she made a few calls. To Atlanta. To people who don't like when justice gets delayed. Especially when money is involved. And suddenly, there was a state-level inquiry. Looking into whether local law enforcement was doing its job properly. And just like that, things sped up. A lot. Renata Caldwell was arrested on a Tuesday morning. I remember exactly where I was. Standing in Simone's kitchen. Making oatmeal. My hands steady. My mind clear. My phone rang. It was Calvin. It's done. Just 2 words. But they carried everything. All of it. I asked. Aggravated battery. Conspiracy. She'll be in court this afternoon. I put the spoon down and waited for the feeling to hit. Victory. Relief. Something loud. But what came instead was quiet. Very quiet. like a door closing, softly, but firmly, on something cold that had been open for too long. "Thank you, Cal," I said. He paused for a second, then replied with just one word, "Family," and hung up. I should tell you about the baby, because through all of this, that little heartbeat never stopped. 3 weeks after Simone came home, she went into labor, earlier than expected, but safe, still safe. Marcus called me at 4 a.m. I was there in 40 minutes. The hospital felt different this time. Still tense, still heavy, but there was something else too. Hope. It was a long labor, 15 hours. I sat in the waiting room with Marcus. He barely spoke, just stared ahead, like someone praying without realizing it. Calvin showed up again. Of course he did, with sandwiches that nobody ate. We just sat there, watching the clock, waiting. And then, at 7:12 p.m., a nurse walked out, smiling. It's a girl. Everything inside me finally let go. "She's 6 pounds 4 ounces, the nurse said. I don't remember standing up, but suddenly I was. Marcus looked like he'd forgotten how to breathe. "A girl," he whispered, like he couldn't believe it. Like after everything, something good had still found its way to us. When they finally let me in, I saw her, tiny, wrapped in that soft hospital blanket, eyes barely open, like the world was still too bright. But her lungs? Oh, she made sure everyone knew she was here, crying loud enough to fill the entire ward. Strong, alive, unapologetically alive. I took her in my arms, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. The pain, the anger, the fear, all of it just faded. I looked down at her, and she looked up at me. That little confused expression babies have, like they're already trying to figure things out. "Hello," I whispered. "You have no idea what we went through to get you here." Behind me, Simone laughed, soft but real. It hurt her ribs. I could see it, but she laughed anyway. And that laugh? It healed something inside me. They named her Ruby, and somehow, it fit perfectly. Strong, rare, precious. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. Because while Ruby was beginning her life, we were still fighting for justice. The trial started months later, and it lasted 9 long, exhausting months. I was there every chance I got. Same seat, 3rd row, behind the prosecution. Every single day, watching, listening, waiting. Renata? She walked in like nothing had happened. Head high, expression calm, like this was all just an inconvenience. Her lawyer was good, expensive, the kind of man who knows how to twist a story until it almost sounds believable. His argument? Simple. Simone went there willingly. The incident? An accident. And Renata? Not responsible for what 2 men may have done. But here's the problem with lies. They don't hold up when truth starts talking. And the truth came in the form of text messages. 14 of them. Between Renata and those men. Just 48 hours before everything happened. They didn't say it directly. Not in plain words. But they didn't need to. Make sure she leaves with nothing. She needs to understand this isn't her family. And then, the message that ended everything. Sent 30 minutes after Simone was left alone. Done. The reply? Yeah, that was it. That one word collapsed her entire defense. The jury took 4 hours. Just 4. And when they came back, every single charge, guilty. Renata Caldwell was sentenced to 7 years. She'll probably serve 4. And no, that's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's a start. The land still belongs to Marcus and Simone, right where it should be. Last spring, they went back there. For the first time. With Ruby. Simone sent me a photo. The 3 of them. Standing at the edge of the field. Georgia pines behind them. Ruby on her hip. Pointing at something outside the frame. Like she already knew exactly what she wanted from life. That picture? It's on my refrigerator, where I can see it every single day. Calvin came over for Thanksgiving. Held Ruby most of the afternoon. pretending he wasn't completely in love with her. Didn't fool anyone. Later that night, we sat on the porch, coffee in our hands. Quiet, peaceful, the kind of silence that only comes after a storm has passed. "You did good, Al," he said. I shook my head. "We did good." He looked at me for a long moment. "You never broke," he said. "Not once. Not in the parking lot, not in the hospital, not in that courtroom." I thought about that. Really thought about it. And then I said something that I believe with everything in me. I broke, plenty. Just never, in front of the people who needed me strong. He nodded. Like that was the answer he expected. Maybe it was. Because sometimes, that's all you can do. When someone tries to destroy the people you love, you don't fall apart. Not yet. You stay standing. You stay focused. You make calls. You write things down. You fight, step by step, until it's over. And then, only then, you allow yourself to breathe again. These days, life is quieter, simpler. I'm back in my garden, pulling tomatoes again, like nothing ever happened. But everything changed. Ruby turns 1 next month. Simone asked me what I wanted to get her, and I told her the truth. I already gave her the only gift that matters. I kept her safe before she even had a name. Honestly, if I were in that situation, I would have done exactly the same thing. Because when it comes to family, you don't wait for justice. You make sure it happens. What would you have done if someone hurt your family like this? Would you stay calm, or would you lose control?